Well, good morning. This is Peter Frank, and I'm here to lead another session of the Church Online Communications Comprehensive. Let me switch to my title slide there. Here's my contact information. If you've been attending, this is our 5th session. If you've been attending with us for a while, you'll recognize me and recognize my contact information. It's been great to talk with a number of you, either by email or by phone. It's been wonderful to hear the encouragement that this has been going well for you, so I thank you for that. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, please jot down my email or my phone number. I'd love to speak with you about your communication plans. It's always wonderful to just hear what's going on in the church and how I can be a help. I've found that as I've talked with people, I tend to gain more than I give, or at least from my perspective. I've been told otherwise, but I really do enjoy it. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me as we get into these things in more detail. You have questions. So let me go here. Today we are talking about creating movement in your church communications. Trying to answer the question, how can we get people moving? And this is going to go into great detail on what a journey map is. And journey maps are something that I really enjoy doing. They can be a little bit tedious or time-consuming, but it's kind of fun to start mapping out, and it really helps you fit all of your communication pieces together. So I really enjoy this topic. I hope to keep today's session to about 45 minutes or so. I am known to go over that time, but I'll do my best. So let's go ahead and dig into it. All right, so the outline for today. We're going to do a quick review of previous sessions. Then we're going to talk about what is a journey map and go through all of those details and define a journey map, at least define it how we can use it in the church. There's a lot of different ways to use journey maps in business and in other areas, but we're talking about the church today. We'll talk about why is it important, and the benefits of doing this in the church. We'll go into details about what do you include in a journey map. And every journey map can be a little bit different to meet your goals, but we'll talk about the basics that are included. We'll talk about what does it look like from a design perspective. I'll present a few different examples and talk about how you can get some more inspiration for a design for your journey map. And lastly, we'll dig into the nitty-gritty and how do you actually implement it. So we've got a lot to cover. But first, let's talk about what we've had. If you're just joining us in this comprehensive, it's a 14-week training course, and it's completely free. We do these live videos every week on Thursdays at 11:30. There's a blog post that goes out in the morning on Thursdays at 9 o'clock. And then we just heard some audio. I want to make sure. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I haven't gotten any notes saying otherwise. So sorry to get distracted by that. I just want to make sure my sound's correct. So if you hear anything, let me know. Or if you don't hear anything, I guess I should say, you probably should let me know, although you won't hear me saying that. So going back to the comprehensive, we would do this. This is our 5th week. Every week we've got the live video, the blog post, a free download. I share the slide deck after the fact. We've got over 500 people following along. So thank you. This has been a tremendous success so far. We've got 9 more weeks to go after this, so I'm really excited about it. But let's talk about, if you are just joining us, what have you missed? Well, the first week was a broad overview, so we won't go into that. But the second week, we dug into goals. And we defined goals as specific, desirable results that have not yet been achieved. And so that's really the core, the basis for everything as you get started. Everything kind of flows from goals, and these are church goals and communication goals. The next week, in session 3, we talked about personas and how to kind of divide your audience into personas. And personas are fictional representations of your target audience. You talk about them as if they're real people. They describe your audience from a variety of different aspects, but they are not your people. They help you focus in on as if you're talking to an individual without it being the people that you are actually talking to. So then from there, last week, we dug into persona profiles. And by building a profile for each of your persona, it gives those individual personas names, faces, personalities, the stories. It really brings them to life so that you can feel like you're talking to that real person. And there's a lot of benefits for doing that so that you can keep your communication consistent, so that you can so that you can share that with your team and have that same messaging going out. So that's what a persona profile is. Today, we're digging into journey maps. So what is a journey map? Well, a journey map is a way to track your audience's actions from the first point of contact all the way through the completion of your desired church goals. Now, I don't want to take credit and make this seem like it's something that is a brand new subject or something that people have never heard about before. I know that most people in the churches, or at least those who I've spoken with, have not really used journey maps and aren't familiar with them. But they actually stem from something that is very well known. It's sales funnels, at least in business. Sales funnels are a very common way of tracking audiences from the point of being an unknown person all the way down to the sale. So I like to see a journey map as the church equivalent of a sales funnel without the sales, of course. We're kind of selling something, but we're selling it for free. We're sharing the gospel message, and there is no better thing to sell than the gospel, which is, of course, free for everyone. And so that I don't like calling it a sales funnel because that just brings it back to dollars and cents, and what we're doing in the church isn't about dollars and cents. So I hope that doesn't sway you into not wanting to use a journey map, because it is so crucial, and it's a good best practice for just defining your processes, narrowing in on the communication that you're doing, the message that you're sharing with each person at each stage, and leading them along in a nice transition to your church goals. So I just wanted to clarify, because if you're in business and you're listening to this, you may say, this sounds really familiar to a sales funnel, and you would be right. So journey maps, what is it, and what does it look like? So I'm going to kind of build one as we go, and we're going to come back to this example quite a bit. So it may be a little light on the presentation, but we've got lines there with a number of dots. And as you are building your journey map, one of the first things you're going to do is add actions to the bottom. So you see here we've got a sample where it's got a number of actions: attended fellowship event, maybe the first point of contact you have with somebody. Maybe this fellowship event is a barbecue for the community, or maybe it's at my church we have an annual sausage supper, and that's a great way to invite the community in a very low-key, casual kind of event. So the next step on there is attended worship for the first time, attended Bible studies, started a new members class, became a confirmed member, started attending worship regularly, and then attending Bible study regularly. And you go from this unknown person, or at least unknown to you in the church, all the way to an engaged person who is actively attending worship, actively attending Bible study. So you have that whole journey. Now, it's important that as we talk about journey maps and we talk about these actions, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail later on, that we understand that these actions are actions that the individual takes. They're not actions that the church takes. Now, the actions that you at the church take are based on those, but they are not. You're not tracking what you're doing. You're tracking what your audience is doing, the members or the potential members as they're coming through. You're tracking their actions. So just a side note to keep that focus. Okay, so as you track this for each individual in your congregation, you're going to track as they're hitting these steps. Now, they may join the journey map in the middle of it. It may be that their first point of contact is attending worship, and that's okay. This is kind of the ideal or the common process, but it's not going to be the same process for everybody. So you've got these checkpoints along the way, and after that, you can define the in-between stages. So each person will land in one of these stages, which means they've completed one step and they're moving to the next. And we name these stages. And again, I'll talk about this in much more detail. But in this case, we've got prospect, visitor, potential member, pre-member, new member, engaged member. So that way it gives us some sort of definition for who each of these individuals are. Okay, so why is a journey map important? Well, there's a number of reasons. First, it's providing you another point of context to help focus your communication to the right audience. So we talked about last time how personas and building out the profiles helps you better understand your audience and who they are, journey maps helps you understand where they are. And these are, they're not subjective things. They are very tangible, real actions that people have taken. As we talk about journey maps, it could be tempting to say that they are growing deeper in their faith, that is your goal, that is your path that you're putting forward. But that is not something that we can tell. Only the Lord can see what's in our hearts. And so that doesn't make a good journey map because there's no outward actions that are trackable. So because these are real actions that have been taken, it provides you with that extra point of reality. Personas, while very real and are based on real life scenarios, are generalizations. But the journey map actually points to actions that your individuals in your congregation have taken. So that's why it's important. We're going to talk about another piece of context later on as we get into this, as we start building it all together. So, all right, so that's the first thing. The next thing is it does help focus your communication on primary call to actions on a primary call to action for each one of these audiences, these segments of your audience. So as you are looking at your journey map and where your audience is, you're not going to try to, oops, I switched over there, pardon me for that. You're not going to try to give all messages to all people. You're not going to try to get them to jump from a fellowship event to attending Bible study regularly. Or at least you shouldn't. It won't be real effective because you've kind of just jumped over this entire journey map that people do follow. They don't, they ease themselves in. That some people will, jump in head first, but that's not the ideal way of going about it. So this allows you to focus your communication on asking them to take that next step. You're not going all the way to the end. You're not closing the deal with getting them to become an active member of your congregation. You're taking baby steps along the way. So that's another reason why we build journey maps, to help us understand that. It's not that we're changing actions. We're accurately reflecting the actions that people generally take. So lastly, it identifies opportunities for movement among your audience. So it's you don't want to leave the final step as people becoming members of your church. Members in name only. If they just join the roster but you don't see them come back, they're not where you want them to be. They're not where it's best for their spiritual growth. And so a journey map allows you to go from a complete unknown all the way to your goals, which in some way will deal with being an engaged member of the congregation. But the steps along the way lead them there. So having this defined journey map allows you to see what those next steps are. While it's not something you necessarily share with your congregation, although there are some good ways of doing that, it would at least help you understand, help you communicate these steps, this movement to your congregation. All right, so going back to our example, let me pull that up there. This is, again, an example. I think it fits very well in a broad sense, although as you look at your congregation, you're going to go in and do it in much more detail and much more narrowly focused to what makes sense for your church. But let's talk about the key things that are in there, define them in a little bit more. I've already mentioned them, but I want to identify them in more detail. So the first thing is the actions. And in this example, we've got them at the bottom. These are the desired activities that you are encouraging your audience to complete. Again, it goes back to these are the actions that the audience is taking, that the people with whom you are communicating should be taking, not the actions that you're taking. Now, one way to draw out a journey map is to also include that context of how you encourage them to take these next steps. But it's key that as you're tracking it, their movement is led by them and not by you. That you don't move them into the next phase until they have taken that step. Then we've got the stages. And so we've identified those, in this case at the top. These identify, they're identified placements on the journey map in between actions. And so that you know that if the person is a prospect, the next action that you're encouraging them to take is to attend worship. And if they have attended worship, they now become a visitor. And your next step is to, would you like to get involved in Bible studies and make them more of a potential member? And so it just continues down that path. But having these allows you to put a name to it. So it's easier to say visitor than, the people who have attended attended worship but have not attended Bible study yet. And so that just gives you those naming conventions. Now, the last thing, and this is important, I just want to highlight it in a little bit more detail, although we've already mentioned it, is the goals. So goals should show up on your journey map. We've talked about goals in great detail, and we'll continue to talk about them as we go because they are really the core to any kind of communication strategy. But goals are key endpoints on the map where you want your audience to go, and they're where you're focusing your attention on your communication. Now, that doesn't mean that every single goal is represented as its own step. You may have goals that are related, but you may not call out each goal on the journey map as a second step depending on where they are, but you should have them represented there in some way, shape, or form. Because these goals are practical, because we talked about SMART goals, making them very specific and timely, you should be able to identify where those goals fit on the journey map. Now, each action does not have to be a goal, and that's what I'm trying to say. The goals are a subset of your actions, but actions will lead to it, and we'll look at that in a few minutes, how you build that out, how you kind of map out the actions leading to your goals. So in this case, we have a few key goals: attending worship for the first time, so that's more of an outreach goal, getting people to come from the outside to join or at least attend your church before they join. And then some goals related to your members, so attending worship regularly, and then another goal would be attending Bible study regularly. So those are represented on your map, and they tie very nicely in with the actions that they all lead down this path. All right, so how do you go about actually creating a journey map? Well, I like to encourage you to start at the end and work backwards, because ultimately you know where you want people to go, but you need to figure out how to get there. That's what the journey map is. So if you don't know where you're going, it's really hard to lay out a plan to get there. So let's take an example. What is your goal? And this could be plural. What are your goals? But in this case, we're just going to talk about one goal. So if the goal is to increase attendance at adult Bible study to 40% of active membership, and I didn't put the time frame in there, but if it's by year end or something like that, that makes a good goal. It's very tangible, it's realistic, it's quantifiable, you can measure success. So that's the goal that we're working with right now. It's not the only goal that we could have. So after you state what your goal is, then ask what action is required to achieve that goal. What singular action is required to achieve that goal? Well, regularly attend Bible study. It's pretty straightforward. You can define what regularly attend is. Is that once a week, once a month, 2 times a month? That may vary, and it would be good to mark that so that you can know exactly when people are there. But maybe it is just to have attended Bible study in the last month. Now, we have another caveat to that we said that we do want them to be active members. And so if you have somebody who is a visitor attending Bible study regularly, well, they're not quite where you want them to be. They're earlier in the funnel because there's still a few steps. So even though they're attending Bible study, they should also be an active member. So when you look at it in that context, then you start mapping backwards a little bit more. What actions lead up to that final step of attending Bible study regularly? So we'll put this kind of on the bottom of the page and say, okay, somebody has attended Bible study regularly for a year. That's when they finally get that checked off. Well, leading up to that, they should have attended worship regularly for a year. And if they're not there, they stay in that stage waiting to accomplish that goal before they become in that final step. Well, of course, based on the criteria that we have for that goal, before that, they must have also become a member. And so in that scenario where a visitor is attending regularly, the next step for them really should be to become a member. So after you define those steps, then you just name the steps in between. So again, it goes back to consistency. It just helps things be a little bit more clear as you're talking within your church. So that's why we name it. So let's look at this in relation to the overall map. So you see there, we've taken a subset that works to accomplish that first goal, where attended Bible study regularly is at the very end, and you've got those stages: pre-member, new member, engaged member, each one leading to that next step that we talked about. Now, you could and should have multiple goals at your congregation, and there may be some overlap there. So if one of the other goals was to increase the number of members at your congregation, well, here are the steps. And those fit a different portion of the map, but they are still on that same map. So I hope that makes sense. This can, like I said, this can be a little bit complex. It's logical in that these are actions that people are taking. And if you really take a step back and look at the members of your congregation and what has led them to this point, you'll be able to see these pretty easily, that these are some of the steps that have taken. Now, everybody may take a slightly different path, and that's okay. This is just kind of that ideal path that you are encouraging and communicating for people to go on. So that all sounds real good and straightforward. We've got a nice straight step all the way through. But I'm sure many of you are saying, okay, Peter, what happens if my journey map is a little bit more complex than that? Because churches are never simple, and things are never the same across the board. I think we all understand that. So let's take a look at a few examples of how your journey map could become a little bit more complex. And probably should. So first off, what if you have multiple actions that lead to that stage? And maybe, for example, that first step, you've got fellowship events and you have outreach events. And maybe the fellowship event is inviting people onto your church grounds for some kind of event, where an outreach event may be something somewhere else. And you wouldn't call it a fellowship event. It's not necessarily hosted by the church. But it's a way to get the church into the community. Well, that's fine. They both lead to that first step, that you now know somebody and they're a potential prospect. And maybe the very next step after that, and there's only one step, is to attend worship for the first time. But as you are then trying to find people who would move from visitor stage to potential member, you could have a number of different things that lead them to that. It could be that they attended an all-church Bible study, or it could be a small church or a small group Bible study, or it could just be that they completed the attendance card that said, "I would like to consider becoming a member." We get that at my church, and it's not that they have started participating, but they say they're looking for a church home. I'm sure many of you have experienced that as well. And so, in that case, there may be 3 different actions that they take to get to that next stage. So it goes on from there. What I wanted to show with this example is that it doesn't have to be a one-for-one relationship where you are, always trying to get people to take one action to move them into the next stage. There'll be related actions, certainly, but that doesn't mean that it's just that one step. Okay, so that's one way of making your journey map a little bit more complex, but it's reality. The next one would be, what if you have the need for multiple journey maps? And I know this seems complex, and I tried to keep the same styling, but this could be a little overwhelming right there on the screen at first glance. But what if you are in a situation where you have a church and a school, and some of your goals as an organization are related to the church, and some of them are related to the school? Well, it doesn't make sense to try to merge these together into one very generic and bland journey map. You could have multiple journey maps, because in this case you have different personas that you're targeting. And so it's okay to fill that out. And so I did it as that one step along the way, but it's very different from the church than it is from the school. And so, for example, at the school, you may be trying to gain new preschool families. And so you start trying to get people to register for emails to get updates, and to request a school info packet, register for a school tour, attend the school tour. There's a difference between those two. Get them registered as a student, and then actually have them attend. And that may be where you're where one of your goals is to increase attendance, but that's not where it ends. That lastly, you want them to be a happy and satisfied student or happy and satisfied family, so much so that they would recommend the school to other families. And so that would be the final step. So there's still a communication point even after they start attending the school. So these could both be very good and valid and appropriate goals for your congregation, for your church and school, and they really are separate journey maps, and that's okay. I've got one more example that we'll get into, so of a complex journey map. What if you have two different paths that you want people to take? And last time, or 2 times ago, we talked about personas, where you might have personas that you're trying to encourage to attend Bible study, but if they're a young family, you're trying to encourage them to attend Sunday school, because you've got the difference between the adult Bible study and the family Sunday school that is multi-generational, that accounts for young children as well as parents. Well, oops, it looks like I have a little bit of a formatting issue at the end there. Sorry about that. But you could start off that same path, that as you find people, they've attended a fellowship event, and then they've attended worship, and then they've attended Bible study for the first time. Well, now you may want to split them down different paths, and it may be that you have some that are young families that have never participated in the faith before, that they don't have scripture knowledge, they just are not from that background of having attended church. And so it's best to get them down that path for Sunday school before you get them into the kind of meatier, or the Bible studies with more meat is what I'm trying to say. And so you've got those divergent paths that still follow a similar journey into becoming an engaged member, but there's different actions that are much more exclusive. And that's okay too, because it's got to be tied back to your church goals. So I'd be curious, and part of it is because I want to make sure that questions are working, but as you think about the journey map at your church, what kind of things are going on is either part of your goals or part of your activities that would make your journey map complex? And I encourage you to put that in the comments and maybe share with others so that you can get their feedback as well. Because I know that not every church is going to have a very simple, straightforward path, because churches are complex, because people are complex. While the overarching goals is always going to be the Great Commission. So we talked about it at the beginning of this course. Your goals should be tied to the Great Commission in this time and place. And this time and place can be messy and complex. So your journey map should reflect that in an appropriate way, and is the most simple plan forward, knowing that it may not always be simple. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about design. We've given really one example here of how it should look, and there's lots of different examples that I have seen, but I can't necessarily share them because we don't. They're not ours. We don't have the rights to them. But from a design perspective, what should it look like? Well, there's a few different themes that I've seen. First one is what we've talked about, kind of a linear landscape view, where they start on the left side and they move to the right. You know, as we're talking about tangible, like actually printing this out and handing people, and in fact I should, I'll show you in a second what ours looks like and how we use it here at CTS. But this example that we've been using is what I would call linear landscape. But you might also have a linear portrait. And this is a little bit more simpler. This is coming straight from the free download that we're providing, where you might want to make it just real simple to say, here are the actions that they take. Now they become this stage. They attended a fellowship event. Now they become a prospect. They attended worship for the first time. Now they become a visitor. And you can still have those multiple steps. You could put that in there. Attended fellowship event, or maybe attended an outreach event, and now they're a prospect. Or maybe they just signed up for the church's newsletter for some unknown reason. Well, now that piques your curiosity. They seem like they would be a prospect for joining your church. So this is another way to do this. This fits more of an outline view, which I know might be much more comfortable for people who have written outlines but haven't necessarily developed journey maps. So we've got that, and then here is the little bit more complex. This is actually the CTS example. I call this a multi-layer map because you've got a lot going on there, and we've got a number of different stages. I've got some different helpful steps in there for our team to understand, and in some things you see there's circles on there and arrows and icons, and this is what I developed for CTS in conjunction with the rest of the team. It is a little bit more complex, and while I will share a kind of a high-level view in the slide deck, I am blurring it out so that we're not giving away a competitive advantage. And so I apologize for having to do that, but just as we are sharing it from a design perspective, I'd love for you to have this idea, but I don't want it to be something that puts our business in a precarious situation. So if you look behind me, you can see over there on against the wall, I've got my foam core journey map. We use this a lot. I have a number of these big foam core things in my office that I can use as a teaching tool to new employees, or just as we're coming up with some plans, we can refer back to it. We also have it electronically where it's on a PDF that we refer to. So it's something that we use regularly. We have it pretty much memorized at this point, so we only have to use it for a good reference. But it's very valuable to us. So like I said, that will be blurred out in the slide deck that I shared earlier. It's just for privacy purposes for our business, so I hope you understand. But how do you get some more ideas? So those are just 3 examples, and there are plenty more out there. And as much as I wish I could say, here is the one-stop shop that you can go to get all the different ideas, it's a little bit more basic than that. I would encourage you to go to either Pinterest or Google image searches. Google Images is not great for getting photos or graphics when you want to print them or share them because you don't have the copyrights. But from simply an inspiration standpoint or an idea standpoint, Google Images is great. And if you type in customer journey map, that'll give you the most different options. Now, those are meant usually for businesses, so you'll be hard-pressed to find some for churches. But from a design standpoint, you'll get a lot of great ideas. And I wish I could show these to you because I've had some favorites. I keep just a board in Pinterest where I save these. That's the kind of fun stuff that I look at on Pinterest. Some people go for recipes or clothing. I go for journey maps because that's what's fun for me. So there's a lot of great ones out there. I like design, but I'm by no means a designer, and I'm always impressed with what people can come up with to represent data, to represent processes. So there's a lot of good ones out there. So I'd encourage you to do that. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty a little bit now. So how do you actually track this? Basically, to answer the question, how do I know which stage each member is positioned on? And that gets a little bit more difficult as you start thinking, okay, this all makes sense, but how do I know who is doing each of these things? Well, my recommendation for that, and there's a number of different ways that are manual, but from a data standpoint and tracking this, I go back to church management software. Now, full disclosure, if you have been with this course at all, you know that I am with Concordia Technology Solutions. We sell church management software. One of our products is a church membership database, and we'll look at that in a second. I don't want this to be a sales pitch as much as just an example of how to use it. And of course, we're going to use our tool. But if you have a church management software, you should be able to do most, if not all of this in the tool that you use. So please know that I'm not trying to turn this into a sales pitch, but I want to give you some practical ways of how to use your database software to track your journey map. So that's my my little I don't know what you'd call that, my statement before we get started. I don't want it to seem like it's a bait and switch. So let me go and switch over here. This is Church 360 members. I actually get my camera to the right place. There we go. So we've looked at this already before as we were talking about assigning personas. And I'm going to be switching back and forth between this and my presentation. So the first step, let me switch over there. the first step is to look at it from dynamic data standpoint. And this is the ideal. And this is where we'll spend the most of our time, because this is the probably the most amount of work on the setup, but the easiest amount of work on the long term. So I'll switch back over there. Pardon me while I'm jumping between screens. And I realize I have a Chrome error message. Hopefully everything's coming across on Facebook. My manager view on Facebook is what's giving me the error message. So that's not good. All right, so here's Church 360 members. If you were with us, I believe that was session 3. We went in and did general settings and set up personas. So we had older adult Alice, 40-ish Fred, millennial Melody, all of those. Well, we can do the same kind of thing here with our journey map. I call it this membership stage. If it's easier, we could call it journey map. But it really does define where is each individual at. And so I've listed all those stages out here: prospect, visitor, potential member, pre-member, new member, and engaged member. Now, right now, these are just names, and we can actually, I'm already jumping ahead into my static data. Pardon me. I was showing off what we did. Let me jump back a second over to people. So this is one way to do it. We'll go back to that. Sorry about that. The dynamic data that we were talking about is actually related to smart groups. So we looked at some smart groups the other day as well when we were coming up with personas. So, persona older adult Alice, we set that as any living members who have the persona set as older adult Alice. That's one way to do that. But let's go back. We'll switch this to everyone. And if we wanted to find people who were at the membership stage of having attended worship regularly but are not down into Bible studies, we need to again start at the end and work backwards. So the first step would be to track anybody who is a living member, and I'm having too much on my screen. It's going a little slow today. So anybody who are living members right now, and then we put in here who have attended Bible study, and we could say ever, we're going to say in the last 6 months. It's a little bit generous. Okay, so that we would say would be an engaged member, except we had one other criteria, remember. Before they could attend Bible study, they also had to attend worship regularly. So we'll add that in here as well. So anyone who has attended worship, I feel like 6 months is a bit too long. Let's do 3 months. And maybe we'll switch that as well here. Okay. So we're going to call people who are living members right now who have attended Bible study in the last 3 months and attended worship in the last 3 months. We're going to call that an engaged member. And that's just one example. How you do it for your church is going to be could be different. So engaged members, we're going to say journey map to start as an engaged member. All right, there we go. So we'll save that, and it looks like my data doesn't have anybody in there, but it's for this is a test database, so it doesn't have all the details. But the next step would be to find that stage before that, and so then it could be people who have not attended Bible study in the last 3 months, but have attended worship, so that they're that stage before that. So as we think about our journey map, let's go back to that just so that we can reference that. And I'll try. I don't know if my mouse will show up there or not. In the far end, we have attended Bible study regularly. That stage before that is that they've attended worship regularly. And so they're going from a new member to engaged member. So in fact, I already named that wrong as I say this out loud. So engaged member is the group that we're looking on right now. And so we'll actually say people who have attended Bible study but have not attended worship. So we'll save that group, and we'll override that as engaged member. And we'll switch it back to who have attended Bible study, and we'll save this group as a new group, calling Journey Map engaged member attending Bible study. So this is the end of the map. We didn't give a name to that. We probably could have, but we'll just call it that just to distinguish those. So another thing that you may want to do, so we have, we'll just type in Journey Map and see that. So this is the other stage. You could number the stages so that they show up in numeric order. So maybe you call it Journey Map Stage 6 and Journey Map Stage 5. We could do that. The other thing you could do, just to make sure that you are making each one of these stages mutually exclusive, in this case our criteria already does that, but if you are questioning it all, you could say people who are not in the SMART group, and where's that? There we go. Oops. Let me clear out. I had selected offering envelopes on there too. Here we go. People who have done all these things but are not in that last SMART group, if you have different criteria that are not directly related like this. So we'll save that and we'll override those changes. So for example, if we are going to that other stage, so before that, let me switch back to my presentation. So before that, a new member, so somebody who is a member but has not attended worship regularly, who has not attended Bible study regularly, you could say that we want that new member group. Oops, having trouble switching back to my screen. All right, so that new member group is just people who are living members now who are not in either of those last two groups. So Journey Map engaged member attending Bible study, or just engaged members. So they're not in either of those two stages. We would put them in that new member group. So we'll call that Journey Map and then new member and save that. So it's, if the criteria are the same and there's just one thing missing, you could always just exclude those other ones. And so this makes sense that it's a larger group, that engaged members are a little bit harder to come by than just being on the roll. So new member may be an oversimplification. It could just be new or disengaged members. That's another way to name that. But I hope you get this sense that as you're building these SMART groups, they're dynamically created based on people's actions, and they're relative to each other. So, all right, let's go ahead and switch gears back to the presentation. Pardon me 1 second while I get to the right screen because I jumped back a little bit. So, there we go. So we talked about dynamic data. That's what SMART groups are. Where I jumped ahead, and I shouldn't have jumped ahead because that was second, is actually structured, but static but structured data. And that's where we start getting into the custom fields. So I got ahead of myself. Thank you for your patience as I was just so excited to talk about our custom fields. So going back to settings and then general settings, we created a custom field. You probably won't find this field in most church management software. It's not in Church 360 Members. We created a membership stage. And the reason that you won't find this in most software is that every church will have a different one. This is your journey map that's unique to your church. But you should be able to add a custom field in to make it worth your while and to make it exactly how your church is tracking things. So this is a drop-down field, prospect, visitor, potential member, pre-member. We talked about that too soon. But as we create this membership stage, and we can put in here journey map. I didn't save it before. Or let's just call that journey, spell it right, map stage. There we go, get the best of both. We'll go down here and save it. If your actions that move people from one stage to the next are not tracked in your church management software, but are tracked outside of that, so maybe registration to an event or conversations that you have with people. Maybe one of the stages is regularly reading the Bible. Well, that is not something that you can track without some help from the members, Let's go back over here to people. But they could be reported into you. That may be just how you do that. And so we'll go here to Kira Belton just because she's on the screen. Maybe then what you are doing is you're going over here to Journey Map stage and putting them and say, okay, now they're regularly reading the Bible. We've considered them an engaged member. And you mark that. And so then you could create your groups based off of that. That's static data because it requires you to change it. It's still structured and that it's always a drop down. And the last way to do this, which I wouldn't recommend just because it's going to be a little bit harder to track and more time consuming, would be static unstructured data. And the way we do that is to add tags. And this is great for a lot of different things. And if this is the only option you have, well, then it works. And that would just be going into, we'll just use Kira Belton again, going in and adding a tag and saying that she is now an engaged member. I've seen this a lot where you could track people as like an inactive. We use that tag sometimes based on criteria. Ultimately, an inactive member is somebody on the journey map that just hasn't moved into the next stage. So that's one way to do it. The problem with that is that as you're doing it, you're putting yourself at risk to have unstructured data in there. If multiple people are entering this in and they're not always using the exact same terms, it could get messy. If one person is doing it, if you're the only one tracking this, it could be consistent because you know what you're looking for, and it may be a little bit easier because all you're doing is going and adding that tag or deleting others. So that's one way to do that. Again, this is our example using Church 360 members, but I'm sure that you could do it with whatever tool you're using right now, just as long as you're using a tool. I was talking with a potential customer. I said, what do you use right now for church management software? And he said, BIC. I was like, BIC? I haven't heard of that one. He's like, oh, just pen and paper. And so that's going to make it a little bit harder if that's the way you track your membership data. But that's okay. There's lots of opportunities out there. So, all right, let's wrap up in summary. I do see a question in here. So before I switch back to that, let me switch back to the PowerPoint so you guys don't have to look at me zooming in and looking at Josh is asking, do you change their status on the map if they lapse back from a regular attendee of worship and Bible studies to C&E, Christmas and Easter? I'm assuming is what you're referring to, Josh. Yes, I would do that. If you set up your criteria so that regularly attend worship or Bible study is defined by a relative time frame, and people fall back, then yes, I'd move them back into that stage. And if you're setting up dynamic data fields in your database for that, it should do that automatically for you as you're making it relative. And so like in this example, a lot of it was actions that are taken once all the way through, the first time they've done something or the time they became a member. From there it switches to be relative, so they would fall back in there. And I think from a communication standpoint, that makes perfect sense as well, that you are always going to communicate differently with somebody who is a regular attender than a Christmas and Easter member, of which most churches have many. And so you're not going to tell them about everything. You're just trying to get them to come back to worship regularly. Or maybe you do that big push to make sure they come back at Christmas, and then the follow-up is different. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. I would definitely recommend doing that. Okay, so I've just passed our 45-minute mark. Let me switch back to my presentation, and we're going to get into the summary. Let me actually click on it in the right place. This is the fun of live events, is that it's not polished. You get to see me struggle switching between my 3 different monitors back and forth. So in summary, as you're building a customer journey map or a persona journey map, an audience journey map, you would start with church goals and work backwards. And as you are identifying these goals, you identify the sequential steps that are taken, the sequential actions that lead up to those goals. And there may be some alignment. They may be that every other step is the goal, and so you just have individual sequential actions in between. That'll vary by church. After you have identified all of those things, you compile and design the journey map. And if you are not a designer, I'm sure there's somebody in your church who can help you. And if there's not, maybe you have a smaller congregation that doesn't have designers. There's a lot of examples out there. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to be functional. And I think sometimes we get caught up in, well, it doesn't look as good as what I've seen elsewhere. The important thing is that it works and it helps keep it in mind and help you focus on your communication so that it's right. So while as much as I love the design aspect, as you can tell, I put a lot of time into making that nice, that's not the important part. The important part is that it is well thought out, it's logical, and that you use it in your communication. So let me just add that level of encouragement if you're not a designer, that's not the most important step. The most important step is actually compiling it. So after you do that, then you track individual stages in your database, whatever that may be. So I hope that makes sense. I explained this a little bit more in detail in some areas. I don't go all the way through it like we did today, but on our blog post. And I'm actually going to switch gears back to my browser because I want to show you a few different things. I normally just put these in the PowerPoint, but let me actually show you. So on our blog, we have that, and there's quite a bit of detail. I use this example. I define these stages a little bit more. It'd be a good review if you haven't been there yet. But I encourage you to do a couple things while you're on here. First off, I encourage you to subscribe to the blog, and you'll have a little pop-up here. You can also subscribe up at the very top. In addition to the comprehensive things, we've got other blog posts by different people within our church body. And so, like this one from Tuesday, defining and measuring success in your church, talks about church goals and how you define them and measure them. And it really plays nicely in with what we've been talking about in the comprehensive. But this was not written by me, and you can see it's a lengthy post written by Billy Schultz, who's in the Minnesota South District. So if you subscribe to the blog, you'll get a lot of those great posts as well, not just the ones that I post. But then also at the end of this blog post, you can click and download. Oops, I went too far. Download our free Defining the Journey Map for Your Church Audience PDF. So if you click there, it'll give you this page. You just fill that out. In fact, I already had that open there. You can fill that out. Let me switch over to that and show you what it looks like. Give you a little bit of a preview. Oops, I'm going too far. There we go. Now I'm on the same thing you guys are looking at. So it's short, gives you this example here and gives you a little bit of instructions on how to do it. I don't recommend this as your final journey map. This is your kind of your playground. This is where you can start filling this in, maybe talking to the other members of your church staff or volunteers who are helping you with communications and say, what do you think? Start jotting some things down. You can put it in pencil or fill out as many of these as you want and do it in pen just to start mapping that out. But we've got that free download available to you. And lastly, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning actually. Sorry for the failure to do that. In our, we have our resource center, and we provide a link to everybody who's subscribed, and you can go in and see all of the details of the course. Well, last week I had the request, and it just made sense to share the slide deck ahead of time. And I did post that in our Facebook group that you could follow along as you go. But I've got that already in the Resource Center, so you can go and look at this right away. I posted it on our SlideShare account, and it gets synced in with our within our Resource Center. It's going a little slow because I have so much running right now. But you can see everything we presented today. And as I mentioned, that Facebook group, I encourage you to join that if you haven't already. We've got 355 members, it looks like. I regularly post stuff and different polls and questions, and you can get all these resources easily notifying you on your phone. So if you haven't joined that, I encourage you to do so. If you have, thank you for being a part of that. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to continue on with it. So that is about it for today for us. I want to make sure, I don't think I have any other questions, but if you guys do have questions, feel free to reach out to me. In fact, I'll switch back to the presentation because got a few other things on there. There's the blog post. There's the download that I mentioned, the Facebook group. All of that is available. I've got the link in there for you. But next week, our topic shifts gears again. One of these other ingredients that are important. We've talked about personas. We've talked about the journey map, where those personas are at. Now let's talk about giving your communications focus, and maybe that should actually be singular, giving your communication focus. We're going to talk about message maps and how to narrow the message down around your goals. So that is giving your communications focus. After that, we're going to be communicating in the right context. We're going to kind of apply all of those things together and look at a content map. So that one's fun. That one gets complex and a little overwhelming and exciting all at the same time. So that'll be on July 13th. From there, we're going to shift gears from being real strategic in ideas and overarching themes and really get down and work farther and farther into actual tactical, day-to-day practical advice. So we're going to talk about the communication channels and how they work together, and then we're going to talk about each of these different channels on a very detailed way. So we'll go into websites. After that, we'll talk about websites that are not public but private for your church. Social media is coming up, then search engine optimization, and then we're going to start getting into some processes of how do you take all that you've learned and start putting it to work. So that's coming up at the end of August. We're going to talk about saving time, mapping this all out into processes, and then lastly, how do you roll this out to your church staff? How do you get people excited about it? So that's how we're going to wrap up at the end of August. So a lot of good stuff still to come. There's my contact information one last time, my email address, probably the best way to get a hold of me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I love having those contacts and being able to have good ways to reach out to you without it being completely invasive. But you also have my phone number, so if you want to call me up and just chat, that's my office line. Please feel free to reach out to me. So that is all for today. I'm going to switch back up here, and thank you again for joining us. I hope you can come back next week, and as we talk about message maps, and I hope you can also participate in the Facebook group. So thank you very much for doing all that. I'll switch back to my contact information one last time. But thanks again, and have a great week.